everyone, Jess here, and today I'm joined with Rob Galbraith from United Airlines. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So to kick us off, what technology do you think is really driving progress in flight ops at the moment?
Driving progress in flight ops is mostly around the electronic flight bag, or EFB. It is not as regulated as a lot of the other equipment and certified as the other equipment on the aircraft, so it allows the pace of change to be a lot more dynamic and gives a lot more flexibility both to the airlines and app developers and all these other vendors to really push the envelope of what we can do.
Absolutely. So it's interesting you mentioned that, because a lot of what we see in the industry, while there's some great emerging technologies, it's quite slow to drive the progress. What with the safety being paramount concern and legacy systems, so it's good to see that there's some spaces where innovation is a little more sort of built in,
yes,
essentially.
Yeah.
So then, if we do think about these emerging technologies, are there any that you can think of that, although they might still be in their infancy, you anticipate having an important impact in the years to come?
I think for all airlines, one of the key initiatives is reducing emissions and becoming more sustainable. And to do that, I think the next step is providing the technology on the flight deck to optimize your flight in every parameter, from being at the most optimum altitude, taking the most optimum route, flying the most optimum speeds, and giving the technology to the pilots so they can manage their flight in a way that is a lot more efficient, both from an environmental perspective, but also more efficient within the national airspace system. An example of that is being able to show them that if they're on their current route, that the weather is going to impact it an hour from now. Currently, we have no idea. And being able to provide recommendations of how to avoid that weather. And when we do that, just think of basic geometry. Usually we get real close, and then we take a right turn and then a left turn. By using the technology, we can provide a more efficient way around that weather. So it's going to really change how we operate as an airline.
That's really interesting. And one thing that comes to mind when we talk about optimization and efficiency is always AI and machine learning. Is there anything that you're seeing these technologies being applied now, or do you think they'll happen in the next few years or so?
So AI is actually key to a lot of the optimization software, because if the recommendation is not going to be accepted by ATC, it's not going to work. So machine learning allows the vendor who's creating the product to look at it and say, okay, 90% of the time this route change is accepted by ATC. It's also going to change how we operate as behind the scenes. In other words, using AI to look at all the source documents to provide better guidance to our crews, because our current process, we have to manually go look, did Boeing make a change in this paragraph? Using AI, it can search all the manuals, all the different regulations around the world to ensure that we have correct guidance for our crews.
Right, and I guess that's just another benefit of the sort of wider digitalization movement that's going on in the industry, that transition from paperless right the way through MRO all the way to avionics and the like. Yes. And then at the start of this conversation, you mentioned that this is an area where innovation is quite possible, especially with the flight bag, etc. What do you foresee, or what do you think is the biggest challenge or obstacle to seamless flight operations?
The biggest challenge is working with our training teams to actually train how we expect the pilot to operate. Right now, we do a great job with simulators, training how we would like to actually fly the airplane, but not operate the airplane. So the next step is, when a new vendor is developing a software, that we can use it in the simulator and mirror exactly how the crew would use it on the line flying a real flight. And currently that's not possible in a lot of cases. We're working with some of our vendors, and we are starting that transition, but that's really going to be the game changer, is when we're in that closed little box that we can simulate exactly what's going to happen in the real world.
Fantastic. And if I push you slightly, could you give like an indication of timeline on that, or is that?
It's really going to depend on the complexity of the background system, because basically you have to decouple it from the operation. And so for some, it's going to happen within the next year, and others it's going to take many years to get it to that place.
Okay, fantastic. TBC, but
Yes.
it's
Yes.
in the works.
Yes.
Okay, and then if we think about the event and being here today, how do events like this help to drive innovation, and why do you decide to join us?
Events like this are absolutely key to driving innovation in that it allows airlines to see what's out there and push the boundaries of what we're doing. And there's so many creative thinkers out there that are coming up with novel products that might not even be thought of how we're going to use it. Example is Viasat, and creating the technology around putting the internet on the aircraft. Well, that has now allowed us to be connected all the time from an operational perspective, pushing the boundaries of what we can do from optimization, crew communication to our company, making us a lot more efficient moving forward. So while the idea was to give internet to our customers, we've taken it in a whole new path. And it was because of places like events like this where we're able to do that.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Rob.
Thank you.